Hello, hello, hello. I don't know where Exulansic is. Hopefully she shows up soon enough. And let's see if we're live. There's always a little bit of lag between me broadcasting and YouTube recording it, but I should be in. I should be in now. Just waiting for it to happen. And here we are. I'm here. You're here. Welcome aboard. My name is Benjamin Boyce. And, oh, here we go. There she is. Just in time. Here we go. And we're waiting for her audio to connect and add to the list. There we go.
Can you hear me?
I can't hear you that well. Let me look at my audio.
Is that better?
Can you speak again?
Is that better?
No, it's pretty quiet. Is there a gain or a pickup?
I'm not.
There we go. It's a little bit better. I can't really turn you up on my end.
Oh, you can't? Okay. I wonder
If you can turn you up on your end. I know, it's new technology.
Yeah, I know that this mic is always seems really quiet when I have to. Oops. Shoot.
Whoa. Well, it's not quiet now. It might just be angled away from you rather than toward you.
All right. Is that better?
That's pretty
Closer?
good. Let's check the chat, see if they can hear. Here, yeah. I was going to wear my my night robe, but I guessed correctly that we're in our Sunday attire on a little Sunday drive.
Yeah, I did. I just got back from church.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, really? Get as close to the mic as possible. There's something. It's just not picking you up. It might be that you need to talk into one of the sides of it, not.
All right. How's the test? Test.
Yeah, I think it is. You talking at the end, but you need to be pretty close to it. You need to get right up on there.
All right. How's that?
Great. I think. Quiet? It's not bad now, says Helena Blavatsky. Anyway, so you didn't go to church?
Nah.
Okay, well, why are you looking so all dolled up?
I was going to go to work today and then had a cancellation.
Oh, okay.
This morning. It's just one.
Are you the type of person that goes to Sunday brunches?
Sometimes.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Are there really good brunch restaurants in your area?
Yeah. Bottomless mimosas?
Bottomless mimosas, like in a pitcher? Or do they come in flutes?
Well, it's just a really long tube. Comes from the kitchen.
Okay. That's cool. Is it just kind of like angled, or do you have to like provide some sucking motion to get it towards you?
You just angle it. Okay. Sucking it would be gross.
Well, I mean, depends on the area. Depends on if it's a sucking brunch or not. It takes all types.
Well, so, you're going to be in California soon, right?
Soon, I guess in June. Yeah, I'll be visiting Oakland in June. I don't know why everybody has to schedule everything in the spring. It's really unfortunate because we're really short-staffed at work. So kind of relying on work. But yeah, I'll be there at least for a night, speaking with Chloe Cole and Amy Sousa for a Jennifer Law production of, I believe we're speaking about detransitioners and the law, if I recall correctly. I actually don't know. I don't know what we're going to talk about today. I don't ever know what I'm going to talk about with anyone, but I show up.
That's all you can do.
What about you? Oh, are you traveling? Do you have any grand escapades on the horizon?
I think I'm going to a conference in July. That's going to be somewhere, Washington, somewhere, the normal one.
Yeah. Okay. In July.
And then I'm going to be. I have vague plans to relocate. Also, this area is kind of expensive, but that keeps getting pushed back.
Yeah. What about You're
Aspirational
what?
travel therapist.
You are an
So
aspirational travel therapist?
yeah. So,
Do you,
but I've
so you
only ever
just
been a
like
local traveler, which is
kidnap
kind of
depressed people and take them on road trips?
no, but that sounds like an interesting business idea. No, you just it's it's a different tax structure if you go and work away from your home for a
Oh,
short period
okay.
of time.
Yeah, okay. You're not a travel therapist, but you're a therapist who travels.
Right.
Okay. All right. Cool. You don't have like a Harley Davidson and a sidecar filled with Xanax that you use to unwind people that pay you exorbitant amounts of money to feel better about their life.
No, I'm not a what's his name? Aaron in the Morn. I'm not hooking people up with the Xannies
Oh, I
to
don't
keep them
know
from
Aaron in
calling
the
911.
morning. Is
Oh,
this like an
he's a pretty well known trans activist who also has gone into great depth on Reddit about how he used to sell acid allegedly,
okay?
and he
Is
would tell people to not call 911 if they overdosed, but to call him
on
because he had the hookup. He could reverse it.
Oh, okay. Wait, what's this person's name again?
Aaron in the Morn is the handle on I believe also TikTok, but definitely Twitter. A
Oh,
few hundred
interesting.
thousand
Okay.
followers.
And where do they align? What's their like place or their position or their what they're trying to accomplish by being a so-called influencer?
They're a trans activist.
Okay, so which means what? Like everybody needs to be transed ASAP, or do you know if they have any guardrails on their ideology, or is it just like
Most
pull
of the
full
posts
on
I
push?
see are about legal challenges to minor transition. So my impression is that he's pro minor transition. He's the one that I've also made videos on because he made the hilarious claim, the outrageous claim that sometimes gender dysphoria causes autism. So it was wrong to prevent somebody with autism from transitioning as a minor, since
Uh,
apparently that could cure autism.
Okay. Wait, okay. So gender dysphoria causes autism or
Right.
relieves autism once it's relieved?
He
Can you
used the word cause in multiple posts,
Okay. All right. Is
along
there
with depression and anxiety.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So are we kind of all a little bit trans now if we get a little spurgy on the internet? That means like we need to pop a hormone or two. Is that what he's
If you have any
saying?
problems in life, if you stubbed your toe, it's probably because you're trans.
I saw a presentation where they said, or at least the title card said that the decrease in gender dysphoria is a symptom of gender dysphoria. It was beautiful. It was this very beautiful,
How did that work?
like signs of gender dysphoria was like depression, anxiety, eating disorders, problems with authority, problems with school, the declination or declining gender dysphoria, like just they. So I made the tweet is gender dysphoria, the cure for the common teen. It's just like whatever it is gender dysphoria. It's just such an amazing
It's always primary.
diagnostic
It's never secondary.
diagnostic tool. Yeah. How's
You
your
just figure
gender
out what kind
dysphoria?
of gender demon has the child
Yeah,
has,
your
then you can
gender
fix it. Sorry,
demon.
there's a bit of a lag. I think
What do you mean in my voice and your voice, or on the?
like
Are you
on my
listening to
end, your
us?
video and audio are out of sync, and it seems also like the audio is now lagging. So there's crosstalk on my end. I don't know if it's happening for you.
It sounds pretty clear for me, but I am talking a little faster than I normally talk with you because somebody said that I was talking too slow when I talked to you, and there was too many awkward silences. So now I'm just filling up every available moment with talking, which is something I try not to do because it interrupts. It can be confusing for the guest, but we have to serve the audience. You're of second importance than the audience is at this point. So don't no offense to you, but.
Yeah,
But you
I'm
are the
deeply
draw. You're the
offended.
great draw. Are you?
Deeply.
Maybe it's your gender dysphoria
I'm gonna have to
thing.
go back to church, talk about it.
Drink
My travel therapist.
with your sucky mimosa.
Yes.
Yeah, but the chat saying that everything's synced on their end, so it is syncing in post. But
Okay.
I'll be a little slower. What have you been reading lately? What are you investigating or concentrating on critiquing?
I mean, the last several weeks, I've mostly been doing the I Am Jazz season 8 reactions, and so that's taken up all of my time. And then that project always really depresses me, so I have to kind of take a break.
Yeah.
So I haven't been making as much content. I've been focused on other projects. I'm trying to work on a book that I'm hoping to get out by the end of the year. I don't know if that'll happen, but working on it. It's kind of the point of the relocation, is to have more time.
Yeah, yeah, to unplug and to write. Yeah. Are you uh, about at what point in the process of the book are you at right now? Is it still research? Are you starting to compose stuff?
I mean, no, the research is completed because, for the most part, because it's just what I've been doing for the last 2 years. It's
Yeah.
it's a book version of my videos. It's going to be like a hitchhiker's guide to doing something you shouldn't, which would be changing your sex.
If you can even do that, change your sex.
You can't,
Yeah.
but if you want to try, here's all the things you should know first.
Okay. Well, like, what are some fun facts of sex changes that are like the top 10 awesomest facts about sex changing from your point of view? Uh oh, she's gonna bring out a picture.
No, no, there's plenty of pictures on Reddit and Google. Probably the biggest thing that people should understand is that when they will say that your risk profile just switches to the other sex when you start taking cross sex hormones, but that's just not true at all. So heart
What's a
attack.
risk profile?
So they will tell females who want to become males and take testosterone that, yeah, your heart attack risk will go up, but it will only go up to the rate that like men have. Sure, your lifespan might be shorter, but men's lifespans are shorter. And so they're like, oh, okay, so I'm just going to be switching over to being a man, and so I'll have different risks of this and that because I'm a man. But that's just not true. Like, a female who takes testosterone has an elevated risk of heart attack compared to both men and women. It doesn't just switch over, because that's not the only difference between men and women. Is It's not just about the testosterone. The elevated
So
cancer risk of having been female doesn't go away, because the cancer risk is from genetic changes that have already happened and don't unhappen.
is it? Or do you know the cancer stats? Is there? Are you talking about female typical cancers or across the board female females
In
tend to have more
either
cancer?
so cancer develops from something called, I believe it's called initiation, and that's where you're exposed to a carcinogen, and that exposure causes genetic changes that aren't cancer yet, but the changes have happened, and those don't go away. So you may never get cancer, but you've been exposed to a carcinogen, so now you're at elevated risk of cancer forever, even if you never get cancer. So if you are a female, you have been exposed to estrogen, like elevated estrogen compared to males. And so even if you stop taking estrogen and completely block estrogen forever, your cancer risk from estrogen related cancers is never going to go back to zero. It's never going to be like what a male's are. So you are adding cancer risk if you take testosterone, which is also a carcinogen, but you're not actually getting rid of the female risk factors.
Okay. And doctors are telling patients, from what you've gathered, they're
Doctors and
telling
activists
patients.
are giving patients the impression that and I've gleaned this both from things that have been written for patients and from interacting with them directly, that they have this strong impression that it just switches, that they can actually trade in their risk as a female versus a male by
Okay.
changing their hormones. And I think the issue is that a lot of people, including medical professionals, don't have a good working model of how cancer happens. If they're not oncologists, they may just not understand how cancer works.
And I assume that testosterone also has it can initiate cancer
Yeah, they're
itself
they're
too.
both complete carcinogens.
Complete carcinogens, is that like another order of technical term?
A complete carcinogen is a carcinogen that can both initiate the cancer and then cause the cancer to grow and then also cause the cancer to spread.
Oh,
Versus some
okay.
carcinogens may only cause the cancers to spread once they exist, but may not cause the cancers. That's an incomplete carcinogen.
Okay. Wow. And our bodies are built to run off these complete carcinogens.
Yeah, your body makes a lot of carcinogens in its normal functioning.
Okay. And that's
If you
just
didn't
kind
have a
of.
liver, you would very rapidly die.
Oh, okay. So my liver is the one that's saving me every
It's
moment
it's
from my
helping.
gonads. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Cool. Cool. So that's a fun fact of sex change. You get the double complete exposure to carcinogens,
Right.
and then so you still carry the female risks too, probably from heart attack or heart disease or bone density loss too. Is it
For
something?
heart attack, I believe the figure that I saw most recently was that a female that goes on the cosmetic doses of testosterone and for trans purposes, that they have 4 times the risk compared to a female that doesn't do that, and twice the risk compared to a typical male of having a heart attack.
Okay. Do you get like your very own EKG when you transition? Do they hand those out?
I think it's
For
still the same EKG.
Okay, but you don't. But you should probably
That's
get one.
measuring rhythm too.
You should probably.
I mean, I would, yeah, if I was going to be taking a drug that I knew could cause heart damage, I would definitely want a baseline EKG.
Yeah.
I'd also probably want an echo,
What's
which
an
would actually
echo?
measure. An echocardiogram is basically an ultrasound, is my understanding of the heart, that's going to be looking at the actual like movement of it, not just the electrical signaling.
Okay.
Because
So
the you can
yeah.
expect testosterone to change the thickness of the heart walls, for instance, and so then it will pump less effectively.
So it sounds like those who decide to transition, otherwise known as trans folk, should be given a lot more medical care, a lot more medical screening, a lot more of very thorough diagnosis for cancer, for heart disease, for elevated, across the board, elevated risk factors. I wonder if
Yeah.
there's any infrastructure in medicine that's specific for trans healthcare that covers that or includes that in at least the information packets.
I've looked at a number of consent documents that I've linked to on my Substack for testosterone specifically, and they typically do not mention an elevated cancer risk, or if they do mention cancer, they mention liver cancer. So they'll mention like one kind of cancer.
Which would be caused by testosterone, liver cancer.
Yeah, they'll suggest that like you might be at elevated risk of liver cancer specifically
Okay.
versus
Yeah.
the many kinds of cancers that men/women are more at risk of compared to the other.
Yeah. Liver cancer is not a good cancer, right? It's one of the bad ones.
You don't want liver cancer, yeah. And
Yeah.
then if you have an SRY gene, you're at elevated risk of liver damage from like any sort of toxicity.
And what's an SRY?
It's the
Okay.
one that makes testicles, but it's also
Okay.
active in other organs throughout the lifespan, and it makes men much more vulnerable to liver injury.
Okay. That's why we drink.
I know what.
No? No? I mean, I know that drinking helps the liver. It makes it fatty, so it can do its job better, right? Fatty liver?
I don't think that helps.
No? Okay.
Milk thistle helps the liver. Milk thistle
Who?
root. Milk thistle
Thistle?
root.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the only thing that can prevent a fatal overdose of amatoxin, which is from a kind of mushroom called death cap.
Okay.
But it's also there's a lot of interesting research on its other protective effects from like if you have hepatitis and other causes of liver inflammation, it can improve functioning. So if you're prone to that, you might want to look into that one. It's a supplement.
You you should probably come up with your own supplements. This is what in the path towards influence or prominence. At some point, you reach a stage where you need to start shilling supplements. I think milk thistle, the Exulansic milk thistle, would be a good way to boost your
Infused with
revenue.
Dr. Adder's Adderbladder oil.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. We were talking about the adder oil at one point, weren't
Yeah,
we? Yeah.
it's hand stomped from the finest adder's finest organ.
Oh, what is the finest order? Finest organ?
Is
Would
their
it be the
bladder,
fatty liver? Oh, the bladder.
the
Okay, yeah.
gallbladder. So that's
Oh,
got what's got the oil in it. And so, but it's got other substances too that will damage the placebo benefits of it. So you have to stomp it so that you use enough force to get the oil out, but a hand like guides the foot
The hand
as,
guides the
as it comes
foot.
down. Yeah, so that it
Okay.
doesn't stomp too hard.
Okay. Wow.
But
It sounds like
it's the
the
perfect
same
blend.
process of getting a mimosa into your mouth from the kitchen. Like there's this whole pump in left. If you're not going to suck, you have to pump and squeeze the endless mimosa into you, right? It just sounds familiar. Can I read something from chat? This is from
Sure.
Corinna Cohn. Do you know Corinna? Corinna's a
Know of
trans,
Karna,
yeah,
yeah.
works with Heterodorks podcast. There is almost nothing in the medical field to help people who have transitioned understand any additional medical risk from cross-sex hormones or from surgeries. Just a few marginal studies. So, I mean, we're both been studying this phenomena, this gender and trans phenomena for a long time. So it might be the case that it's a bigger story to us than it is to the general public. It might be that we're making a mountain out of a molehill. It might be the case that the internet makes it more prominent than it actually is. How many actual drag children's story hours are actually happening? How many people are actually transitioning? But we do know that there's an increase in transition. I just, it's hard to really understand or to aim the critique correctly towards what's going on without blowing it out of proportion. Do you ever try to navigate that? Like, am I making this a bigger deal than it is, or this is a much bigger deal than people realize?
My reactions to that are that there's two ways you can look at it. One is that it's one is too many. One person that doesn't get that appropriate guidance is enough to care because it's going to affect their whole life and it's going to affect everyone that they know. And it might affect, if a person that transitions at 25 might have a kid at 35 and then might have a stroke at 45, and that's going to devastate a family like unimaginably. But at the other hand, yeah, I do think that it's really grown in the last 10 years since I was identifying as transit at Cal. I never expected it to become so mainstream. So, and maybe that's partly just because a lot of people have taken up it as their what's the word, shibboleth, their way of saying, are you on my side of the political spectrum or not? It seems to be the dividing line for a lot of things now, where you can't even organize around unrelated issues unless you have some sort of a official stance on this, and if you don't, you're going to get yelled at.
Hmm.
But I never imagined that, for instance, the situation with Riley Gaines at SF State last week or the week before, where an entire like class of students were keeping her hostage for hours. Like you have to have a pretty wide groundswell of support to see social actions like that.
And she was this woman, Riley Gaines, was the
She's a
swimmer,
competitive swimmer. Yeah,
competed against Leah Thomas and was exposed to his banana in the locker rooms.
I didn't know about that part, but I know that she's a swimmer that has spoken out against men and women's sports or male people.
And for some reason, her opinion is unacceptable, or violence. It threatens the existence of trans folk to have a woman stand up and say, men are stronger than women, and we shouldn't be forced to undress in front of them, each other.
Right. Yeah, and she's just not allowed to express that opinion on a college campus. And then what was very disturbing was how the university then came out and was saying that the students did nothing wrong. It's one thing for students to get carried away and act foolishly because they're young, but it's another thing for the authority structures to say this was an acceptable thing to do, to keep a woman in a room for 3 hours who wanted to leave the room, and to tell the police, if you give us $10 each, we'll let her go.
Oh, they were shaking down the police, huh?
Yeah, there's cotton 4K, video. So the idea that
Jeez
that,
Louise.
that was an acceptable thing to happen. My
Yeah.
understanding is that she's filed a lawsuit or is intending to file a lawsuit. So, Best of luck to
Yes,
her.
please. I mean, insofar as the law is the last bastion of keeping our society together, we need to take full advantage of it. I don't see any other way to challenge this stuff other than through law or public opinion. But like
Yeah,
you say,
I
it's
think that
such a
litigation is
left-right.
going to be
Sorry, what?
that litigation is going to be the answer more than attempting to legislate it. I don't think legislative bans are going to go anywhere. I mean, maybe given this who there's is on the Supreme Court right now, but it's such a toss up. Whereas I feel like if we can expose the providers of these controlled substances, although estrogen's not controlled, but testosterone currently still is, and the people doing these surgeries, and just kind of expose them as not understanding the consequences of these interventions, and therefore practicing outside of their own competence as providers, then the medical board can start yanking licenses, and then providers just will wake up and will stop doing it without a lot more education at minimum.
Did you just suggest that I can go to Walgreens and get some estrogen?
Yeah, you
It's not
definitely can.
controlled
Plan
anymore?
B, I think,
Oh,
is available over the counter as estrogen.
Plan B?
Yeah,
Oh,
you've
isn't
never
that?
had to buy Plan B. I can't imagine why.
I
Is it
don't.
the maleness?
I don't. I don't worry about pregnancy anymore. That's long in
I
my
really,
past.
really want to know like how many pregnancy tests Daniel Radcliffe took when he and his partner were
Oh,
trying to get pregnant.
yeah. Okay.
I'm just
So
surprised.
Radcliffe. Yeah, I didn't like that. I think that was a misstep on the from the turf point of view, and turf is just used as the not as a offensive term. It's just a term for a group of activists. But to make fun of the wife of Radcliffe, I understand the joke and stuff, but like this is a baby. Like I just don't think that the baby should be involved in the dad's idiocy. But he's totally trans women are women, and I got my woman pregnant. So he is opening himself up to that criticism. But there was just pictures floating around of this poor wife, and people were assuming that she was trans, and then it turns out she's pregnant. I just thought it was kind of not that I should argue with anybody about what is good taste or not taste, because I'm pretty tasteless myself at moments. But
Yeah, I think you have to be really careful speculating about whether somebody is trans if it's not extremely like apparent.
well, when that shooter news broke, I assumed that they were using the word she, and that was a male typical act of violence, and it would probably turn out to be a man, but it turned out to be a woman with some sort of trans identification going on. And that, the murder of what, six Christians in a Christian school, was
Yeah,
immediately suppressed for trans rights and anti-gun legislation. That's where all of the political capital went to cover that up. Kind of
yeah. All the
fascinating.
concern being that somehow this will inspire violence against the trans community when the violence had just come from the trans community towards people outside of that community, and it just.
What do you think of the psychology at work there? Is it just tribalism or?
I think that a lot of people have really bought into the idea that they are actively preventing like an imminent like genocide, and they feel like any day now it's just going to happen, and we just got to be ready, as if they can predict the future.
What
So
is
they
the
actually know.
appeal of genocide? It's such a sticky meme. It's totally false. There's no trans genocide.
I mean, if you're sterilizing yourself, and I've heard some of them refer to the genocide as being the wave of suicides that will result from the legislation. It's like I don't know that self genocide is is that real? Is that a thing?
If you that's a eugenics, like voluntary moral eugenics, it is a suicide of a generation, but it's the next generation. I mean, it's the ending of humanity by ending the means of human reproduction. So that's definitely genocide, but it's not genocide for the narcissists in the room. They just completely misconstrued, and all their allies. It's just this topic. There's so much ridiculousness in this topic. It's kind of it's insane, just how topsy turvy world this particular topic is.
Yeah, and we've just lost the plot to where we can't talk about things that are significant, or where there was the Forest Service person that got fired. I think this week it was going around Twitter, who he had posed with a gun and said that he was going to take out a few of the transphobes when they come for him. And so that was published shortly before the Covenant shooting, but then it went viral afterwards, and so he lost his job with the Forest Service over it. And so he was trying to say that he was fired because he's trans and owned a gun. But it's just like, and I think there was another person who was planning a school shooting who got caught, who was trans identifying.
Hmm.
So I feel like we're
Yeah,
not talking about the real issues though.
it is interesting why the conservatives are more focused on Dylan Mulvaney on a Bud Light can than they are about the shooter. Maybe because it's hard for them to tackle the shooter issue because it's a guns rights issue and a school shooting issue, and they're kind of typically weak on that rhetorically. So it's much easier to bitch about Bud Light and Nike
Just
than
I
to
think
tackle
it
that.
feels like an encroachment that we're gonna even take Bud Light away from you.
Hmm. I don't know why
It's,
they thought that was a good idea, but maybe they're supposed to do that no matter what.
did you see the steamroller going over all of the cans of Bud Light?
Yeah, it wasn't as like mesmerizing as I was hoping for the video quality. There wasn't. It could have been like a really great slow motion video of massive destruction. I love massive destruction. Like I just the catastrophic failure is my favorite Reddit to visit. It's not a
My
trans
favorite
Reddit.
Reddit
If
is
you
Hold My Feeding Tube.
hold my feeding tube, okay, that's like hold my beer, but like not safe for life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. What's the dangerous thing that you've done in your life that's hold your feeding tube worthy?
The dangerous things that I've done in my life.
Have you ever wrestled with a mountain lion?
No, no, I mean, a kangaroo is obviously above mountain lion.
Oh, so you've duked it out with a kangaroo and then you ate the
No, no, but
flesh that you jerked? Okay.
someday,
Okay.
if I ever get to go to Australia,
Is that what you're
it's like
training
the
for?
first thing. I'll find a small one,
Okay.
but I don't know. I've jumped off some pretty high things into water. It's probably the most
Okay.
dangerous thing.
Like
I used to be
buildings
on a
or
diving team,
rocks? Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
so was that, and then yes, also off of rocks into the water. So
It's a
there's
California pastime.
yeah, there's actually this thing where it's I can't remember what it's called, but it's you get a raft, and there's like six people on the raft, and it's white water for like the first 3 minutes, and then it's 7 hours of just lazy river, but it's a real river. And so there's a portion on that river where you can climb up and jump off the cliffs into the water, and it's just I mean the summer is just packed, and so
Hmm.
people will bring their what are they called, camelbacks, but like filled with alcohol, and just like,
Okay, yeah.
squirt guns. And
What river? I remember doing this on the Sacramento River back in the day.
I don't think it's Sacramento. It's I think it's called Knights Ferry. Is this local city? I can't remember what the name of the river is though. But I went to it a few times. But I went with a group, so I wasn't planning where to go. It's
You
good
were not
times.
in control. It just happened. It was just an adventure.
Just go with the flow. It was the theme of the day because it's a lazy river kind of.
Yeah. So, increased risk. What's another cool trans fact that isn't widely popular or known that you're going to feature in your book?
Well, we mentioned the liver. The pancreas is also sexually dimorphic, and so it will respond negatively to cross-sex hormones in both directions
Wonder why.
because you're different. Men are different from women, not just
Yeah.
hormonally in the moment, but genetically and across the lifespan.
Yeah.
So the,
Even
the,
our
the male
pancreas.
pancreas expects there to be high levels of testosterone, and evolved
Yeah.
to expect that, and the female pancreas evolved to expect no testosterone. or very little testosterone rather.
What kind of damage would testosterone cause in the pancreas of a female?
It causes inflammation and cell death for the cells that make insulin and
Oh
other cells.
no.
So the islet cells, I believe they're called. So women who have polycystic ovarian syndrome are more prone to diabetes for that reason.
Okay. So diabetes.
That's been known for a while, and that's lower levels of testosterone than you would be taking for gender transition.
Oh, jeez. I wonder how long that takes to set in, that diabetes resulting from cross-sex hormones.
It's probably somewhat dose dependent since it's a drug reaction, but I don't think we actually know,
We're going to know someday.
and it's also going to be dependent on the individual's genetics and their own, like for instance, their sensitivity to testosterone. People have different sensitivities in the androgen receptor to testosterone.
People in general, or men have it and women have it?
Well, it's on the X chromosome, so women will have two
Okay.
copies of the androgen receptor gene typically.
Okay.
So if one of them is problematic, then we have a backup. But yeah, both men and women have different sensitivity to testosterone and other androgens.
Is the cocktail for HRT for trans women or male to female transitioners? Is it just testosterone, or is it a cocktail of
No,
androgens?
they're typically given also androgen blockers.
Yeah, which is standard a standard blocker like Lupron or something, or like a
I
cocktail
think it's
again.
usually they're usually getting spironolactone is the one that I've seen a few
Okay.
times. I don't
Yeah.
think that the adult ones are getting Lupron, but I may be wrong about that. I know that the adolescent ones get put on Lupron, and then generally, if they're female to male, they'll be taken off of it sooner because the idea is that the testosterone will suppress ovarian function better than estrogen suppresses testicular function. So, and then sometimes they're also put on progesterone in addition to the estrogen. So, Jazz Jennings was put on both estrogen and progesterone. And then he was taken off of the progesterone to ease the mental health consequences of putting him on all these hormones.
Which were
He was rapidly diagnosed with depression and anxiety after they started the puberty blockers and then the estrogen.
and how do we know this is not a controlled experiment? So how do we know it's not just like the constant cameras or the hormones or
Yeah, we don't.
combination of both? Yeah, right. I mean,
They're
has
just
any
kind of
has
trying to tweak it.
are there any other kids that have been subjected to this amount of scrutiny in their sexual development over the course of their life? From
I mean, David Reimer comes to mind, although I don't think it was public until he was an adult.
who? What's this story? I haven't heard this guy.
David Reimer is the one who was given the botched circumcision and had an identical
Oh,
twin brother, and so they David or Dr. Money
John Money. Yeah.
told him John Money, yeah, said to just raise him as a girl, and did all the photographs where they would have to come and act out sexual positions. These two twin boys, one of whom had been mutilated, and then he eventually figured it out because he was like 22 months old when they did the actual the full on like removal of what remained, and he was like 7 months old when the initial botched circumcision happened. So it's like there's this idea in some cultural frameworks that children don't remember things, which I think is absurd. So
Did that kid end up committing suicide?
both of them did,
Both
both
twins
boys.
did. Why? Why the other boy?
I mean, he had been subjected to, in my opinion, sexual abuse by being forced to pretend to be take on the male role in a sexual act with his own brother, regularly and photographed by John Money.
Okay, what was Money's purpose for the photographs, or how did he dress up his
He
purpose?
was studying gender identity formation,
Okay.
and in his mind, if he just had them act out the male or the female role, that would be enough to convince them that they were man or woman.
What happened with John Money in the end, other than Hell having to create another circle to accept him and do it.
I don't think there was any consequence for him, but I'm actually not sure. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And
know that trans activists still cite his work, still cite that experiment, and say like this proves gender identity.
okay.
It proves gender identity is innate. And in my opinion, if you have such a wildly unethical experiment, it doesn't prove anything, and it's absurd to try to say it proves something.
Well, it proves something about the character of the man who puts it on and those who quote it as a basis for their ideology. One could argue. So that spirulina, the androgen blocker? What are the
Spironolactone.
effects? Spironolactone, spironolactone.
I
Sorry.
think spirulina is a kind of wheat.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Okay. So spirolactone. Have you run across the effects of that? Because it's got to have consequences, right? Over and beyond suppressing a hormone. Do you know any risk factors for that?
That I don't know off the top of my head. I'll have to look into that too. I know that it will cause it for the patients who've been given the combination of estrogen and androgen blockers, they do experience their brain shrinking. So that's something that's been confirmed by multiple peer-reviewed MRI studies that I've looked at, and the rate that they estimated in one of them was 10 times the rate that you would expect from aging, normal aging. And one study referred to that as feminizing the brain because women have smaller brains. Of course, we also have smaller bodies. And the other one said, well, it definitely made it smaller, but we don't agree with the other article that we're replicating here that this is the same as feminizing. They explicitly said that. So one of them ended up in my literature review series and one ended up in my literature review series. Literature is what I don't respect in terms of the science. I feel like it's propaganda masquerading as science. But I've got those two playlists.
So brain shrinkage.
Yeah, because these hormones are important for maintaining the size and shape of things.
Okay. Well, where does the extra space go? It's just filled with fluid. Like where does
Yeah, it
your
just
brain
fills with
go?
fluid. When your
Okay.
brain shrinks, your ventricles get bigger and the space between your brain and your skull gets bigger.
Okay.
And fluid
So
fills that space.
okay. Does that what kind of effect has to have some effect on cognition to have a shrinking brain? I mean,
Yeah, it definitely will, especially the more severe it is. That's what I see in charts sometimes is a phrase generalized volume loss. That's what's associated with dementia. And so if you have generalized volume loss, that's not a good thing. Things your brain functions in many dimensions on the basis of its size and shape. These if you think of a computer, and you think about the different parts of a computer. If you just broke it in half and put it back, it wouldn't function as well. For a lot of reasons. If your random access memory is smaller, your computer can't run as many programs at the same time. And so eventually it'll fall below a threshold of functioning where it's really noticeable that the person can't remember. And that will look like having a conversation with somebody, and then 20 minutes later, they repeat the same information as if you didn't have that conversation 20 minutes ago. It might look like confabulation depending on where in the brain it is. If it's on the right hemisphere, you're less able to notice that you have the problem. The people with right hemisphere damage have less insight because the right hemisphere is not redundant with the left. So you can get something called left neglect if you have right hemisphere damage, where you'll have to actually physically turn the plate, or else they just won't eat the rest of their food. Like it's you don't want it. And then you
okay.
have things like the pituitary damage that are producing hormones as a function of their volume because they can only do so much chemistry based on their size. And so if that shrinks, then eventually it's not going to be able to produce enough of for instance, one hormone is called an antidiuretic hormone. And that's a hormone you need a certain amount of it to keep fluid in your veins. Otherwise, it'll just go right through you. And you can get a condition called diabetes insipidus where you just keep it's not related to sugar, but it's called diabetes because it has the symptom of peeing a lot. So all these things can happen from having your different parts of your brain or your entire brain shrinking for various reasons or damage from some other cause.
Wow. I wonder if the Neuralink or some sort of androidization could make up for that. I mean, if you're going to go transhuman, you kind of have to go all out, right? Our bodies are just so frail.
You can they do make synthetic antidiuretic hormone, so you can take that. And if you replace it though, it's not going to be what it was. So I like to use the example of the cochlear implant and how you can use that to repair hearing that's been lost because the hair cells have died. But it's not the same as having hair cells that are being bent by a membrane because it's a digital signal instead of an analog signal.
Mm-hmm.
And your brain also, unless you had it as an infant, didn't develop with it.
Hmm.
So it's all developing in tandem.
Wow. Brain shrinkage, increased risk of cancer.
Yeah, well, yeah, various kinds of brain cancer specifically too. Also, will that risk profile will change. I think men are more at risk of glioblastoma, which is, if I'm not mistaken, what killed Magdalene Burns. Glioblastoma is a kind of brain cancer. So it's glioblastoma multiforme has the mnemonic "Goodbye, my friend" because it's very aggressive and tends to strike young people.
Oh, really? Huh.
So
Wow. It's morbid. What about the surgeries? What are some unknown facts around trans surgeries?
um, I think probably one that a lot of people don't understand is that when you go in and you're cutting out breast tissue, there's not necessarily a guarantee that you'll get all of it. So, but there it will make it much harder for you to get a mammogram if you've had top surgery. But you're still at elevated risk, so you might still like really need to have a scan. Um,
So the breast tissue, it's just kind of hanging there, and so they scrape it off, or they kind of, or is it in a sack of some sort, and they just kind of cut around the muscle. Well, they have your chest opened up.
well, there's one account on TikTok that will go and demonstrate how these surgeries are done using lunch meat and
Oh, okay.
cheese. And
Yeah. Okay.
so if you picture ham and you just kind of cut a circle and then you scoop the cheese out from underneath the ham and then stitch it up, you know. But you are trusting these surgeons, a lot of whom have entered the market of top surgery because it's popular right now, because it's a new emerging market and they can make a lot of money with very little, like, from their perspective, professional risk because they're operating on healthy people. So
Hmm.
it's one thing if you do a mastectomy on a cancer patient, you miss some of the cancer cells, like, versus if you just are just trying to sculpt, masculinize the chest, and
Yeah.
so it's of somebody that's also on hormones that are suppressing the growth of their breast tissue. But it's like if a person gains weight after that, they might not put it on in predictable ways. If they have other hormonal changes that happen, they might discover that they still had some breast tissue because their anatomy was slightly different because everyone's anatomy is somewhat different.
Mhm.
And you're putting a lot of trust in a doctor who may not be in it for the right reasons. And I don't know what the right reasons are when you're operating on healthy people.
Yeah, but it's medical care, I guess. We'll see what happens with Chloe Cole's lawsuit because part of her lawsuit is about her mastectomy is still not healed. It's been 2 years. It's still got a problem.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting thing that I didn't think about because she's very wary. I mean, okay, so I'm going to take her out of the equation, but if the medical industry harms you in some way and you don't heal correctly, it seems like we need to have advocates who will help you navigate that healthcare system because it could be the case that, especially with young people, they just don't want to use the medical industry at all, even though they have persistent problems. It doesn't seem like there's an advocacy, like it seems like there's a need or a market for advocates for detransitioners to maintain or help them navigate the medical the very system that harmed them. And it seems like this is something that's gonna. I haven't seen anybody talk about that. I know somebody's thought about it, but I know that there's a need.
Yeah, and they're kind of in the same position as anyone else with a rare disorder that's not well understood,
Hmm.
where they're having to persuade doctors that there's even a problem. There's with detransitioners, there's the additional stigma of like, well, you got yourself into this mess. Why should I be upset just because you did this to yourself? That I see a lot, and there's the issue that these aren't these complications are not well studied because they're new, they're unusual, but it's once you are seen as somebody who has a disability, there is a degree to which the medical industry just doesn't care as much about keeping your disability from getting worse. It seems like there's a grief process and in a realization period where you have to come to terms with the fact that your quality of life is no longer ranked as highly as somebody without a chronic unusual disability, and you expect them to care because you're suffering, but actually like they're just like, well, this is just your life now, and you have to come to terms with how you're seen. And I think it's similar for people who the recent inductees who have long COVID, having to come to terms with the fact that they're just redefined as being disabled, and they're not. There's no urgency that they feel like should be there. And I think that people who acquire disabilities and later in life, that's a common experience of having to understand that this is the new normal, and there's not actually a way back. Whereas if you've always been healthy and you're signing up for these interventions, you take for granted that there will be a way back and that the doctors will care as much about getting you out of the pit as they did getting you into it.
Yeah, I don't even know. Have you studied? Are there detransitioner effects to pair with the transition effects, like the
A
paths
lot of
back
them,
towards health? And
a lot of female to female detransitioners describe chronic and persistent vocal pain and dysfunction, where even if their voice sounds relatively like having a good tone and function, it's hurts, and so they have reduced stamina, and that's probably, in my opinion, as a speech pathologist, to do with the fact that the when you go off of anabolic steroids, those small muscles as well as the larger muscles that are providing breast support they're smaller, and whereas the connective tissue that they're having to move doesn't necessarily shrink once it's been generated. It doesn't go back. So you have a permanent reduction in your pitch, but now you don't have the as strong of muscles to cause those tissues to move, and they're all still in a relatively cramped space because the female larynx is much smaller than the male larynx. So especially people that start these hormones after they've gone through puberty, after their hyoid bone, which is right here, has stopped growing.
hyoid bone. What did you call it?
Huh?
Hyoid
Hyoid
bone.
bone.
Hyoid.
Yeah, Hyoid.
Where
Hyoid
is it?
bone. It's the only bone that is not connected to any other bone.
Oh,
Yeah. So your
it's the
voice
free
box
bone.
hangs from.
Weird.
Yeah. And so that bone hangs from two, it's called the styloid process, styloid meaning pen like, and they're like this. And then the
Yeah.
hyoid bone is like hanging by ligaments. And
How
so if
does
you
it
move
get
up,
there?
how does
It's
it get
just
there?
kind of yeah.
This
I'm just
development.
like it just like kind of grows. I just yeah. I'm trying to now. I'm tripping out about like how does anything get anywhere in a human body? It just kind of grows there. It's just so weird
You
because
have
our bones don't
dedicated
grow out of
genes.
other bones, but it's
No,
just kind
they
of like
don't.
it's just there.
You have dedicated genes that cause segmentation and certain, so like as a very tiny embryo, it'll say like you have three cells here that are designated to eventually become the hyoid bone, and if you have four cells, then your hyoid bone will be abnormally big. And
Have you
so
seen big hyoid bone people walking around? Do they have a certain sound?
I try not to comment on it.
I
I've,
hope you
I've
can
been
see
told
it.
it's rude.
Okay, you had four
Well, sure, of course
cells.
you could see it. They probably have like large Adam's apples as a result.
Okay, But
It's
it's kind of it's a
proportionally.
condition. It's just a big old bone in your throat.
Yeah.
Crazy. I always
Yes.
love the part of our conversations when we start talking about vocal mechanics. We always talk about them, and it always just kind of stretches my brain. The amount of complexity that I just my entire life is built at this point in my life. My entire life is built on this thing right here. I mean, my spirit and my mind, but it's all coming through. My entire like livelihood relies on my voice at this point. I completely take it for granted.
Yeah, you got to protect it.
Yeah, is there like a creams or lozenges that you recommend your milk thistle for creating a strong silken voice, maintaining that?
I mean, the general advice that you can give people, you want to avoid things that would cause inflammation. So avoiding excessive drinking, avoiding smoking, exposure to toxic solvents like cleaning products.
Hmm.
Um,
No more drinking
yeah,
Tide Pods
it's as
then.
bad
Is that what
as
you're saying?
yeah. Don't drink them. Don't inhale them, especially. Don't
Okay.
gargle with them.
Okay. Okay. Gargling.
No,
Okay. Gargling. What about
pine sol is
salt water?
actually okay.
Pine Sol. You can gargle pine
Just
Sol.
I'm just kidding. Don't
Okay.
do that.
She's kidding. This is not medical advice. Do not gargle pine Sol.
No.
I don't like going to bars, one, because it's too loud and stuff, but my voice is dead so quick. I cannot speak loudly for extended period of time. My voice clunks out. It's part of the reason why I'm always like talking very low on my shows is because I get worn out really quick. I
Yeah,
can't imagine how actors can scream and yell and stuff because any of that stuff just like ruins me.
I get told I'm soft spoken from time to time, and I imagine it's I've a condition called Eagle syndrome that I've talked about from time to time as well. So
Eagle
it's just
syndrome? You circle over fields and snatch mice out of them? What's eagle syndrome?
it's a disability.
Oh,
You're
I'm
mocking
sorry.
it.
Oh no, I did
You know
it.
how
I
embarrassing it is
diminished
to
you.
randomly see a mouse in a field 2 miles away and have to just go for it.
You just like, what are you gonna do? It's my syndrome. I gotta get the mouse.
Accommodations must be made. Yeah, yeah,
You can keep it off.
light went off.
It's plenty of light.
It's fine. Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
By the
It's
window.
actually nice.
No, it's named after a Dr. Eagle.
Oh,
He
okay.
figured it out. Um, so that bone I was talking to you about a second ago, the styloid process is can be too long due to developmental differences.
Okay.
So it
And
just
eagle
kind of
syndrome, is that like a inflammation kind of thing? Is that like a general
it
dispersed?
causes inflammation. So like the styloid process is like long and pointy, and then you've got a structure that's moving up and forward hundreds of times a day that's hanging from it. So it's like
Oh, okay.
bending and like irritating the
Where's
stuff
this?
around it.
Where is this styloid process? This is the
Like
pen thing
right
that
here.
you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, it comes out the base of the petrous bone in your skull. So which
Wow.
is the bone the ear is in.
So many bones.
Yeah. And so then your voice box is hanging from it, suspended from it in the middle.
What about voice feminization? How do men end up sounding like women when they pull it off? Is that pure training or is it a part of somehow? I mean, I know you can get surgeries and stuff, but I'm sure that you could train your voice to speak in a very feminine manner. Have you watched that process unfold?
Yeah, there. So the voice feminization surgery, they'll actually go in and cut the overlying connective tissue about like a quarter away of the way down, or however far down, and then they'll stitch the vocal cords together, which is kind of like putting a what are they called, fret guards or something on a guitar to
Hmm.
hold the strings down.
Hmm.
And so that will, but then you can end up with the diplophonia train whistle effect, the peppermint Aztec death whistle scream, where you end up with, like, instead of having one smaller set of vocal cords, you now have a smaller set and an even smaller set, and then
Hmm.
it's tied in the middle, but this part is still vibrating as if it was its own set now. So you get two pitches instead of one. And in terms of the voice therapy for it, the goal is to keep you speaking in the upper part of your register, because the actual speech is perceived based on ratios, kind of like music. So I will perceive something as an I based regardless of the absolute pitches, and it's just about the relative pitches. So if I try to shrink my vocal range down, I can still have intelligible speech, but only at the top of that range if I
And
use muscle tension.
okay,
So
so I would affect a higher voice by constricting my. Is that what's going on? What's the difference between talking like this and talking like this?
no, that's basically the idea. And,
Okay.
and, and then making other adjustments to speak more forward in your mouth too, so that it doesn't sound distorted.
What do you mean forward in your mouth? Can you give me a back mouth sound, and a forward mouth sound?
Yeah. So awe, for instance, is produced with a constriction
Oh,
close to the back of your mouth.
yeah.
But you could also make that kind of halfway up if you're like, uh, uh,
Oh,
uh,
oh,
uh.
oh.
I
Do
can't
that
do it
again.
very
Do it again.
well. Uh, but it's training yourself to be able to make those relative ratios while also having speaking at the top of your pitch range too. Singers do this, and will also pronounce certain vowels differently when they're
Hmm.
sung at a high pitch. And they sound normal when they're sung at a high pitch, even though if you sing them at a low pitch, it would sound like the wrong vowel. So, like, you usually don't sing an E. You usually sing it as, I believe, an E, if I remember vocal pedagogy lessons as correctly.
I have a question that's kind of related to this, but why do British rock stars sound like Americans when they sing? Is that because they're mimicking the blues, or is there something about like singing in British that's really difficult to do?
I don't know. That's a good question.
All right. Okay. Maybe chat knows. Because it's just astounding. Like, they all sound like Americans. And then they're like, Sting's like, oh, yeah, but then I was just going down and, the Jerry Jeans or whatever, and Mick and all that stuff. It's just interesting. So, that made me, yeah, I think of that because you're saying when you sing, you have to use a different tone. So, of course, you'd be singing in
Like the
different
example I
accents.
remember was that they said that they would have people sing in order to, when they were auditioning for choirs, was America the Beautiful. And so you would get to the part of like above the fruited plain, but you wouldn't say it a, because that's very like
Hated
hard to do at a very
plan.
high pitch. So you
Okay.
would say above the fruited plan, I believe. And then because it's such a high pitch, it sounds like you're saying a, because
Oh, okay.
e is at the front of the mouth.
Oh,
But
okay.
it sounds a lot better if you actually are saying like an a sound plan,
Hmm.
because a
Before I
lot of
started doing a lot of my what?
your speech perception is based on a synthesis of factors. So the classic example is dank scump. If you actually like go and if you take damp skunk and then switch the M and the N, like you go into Wave Surfer and you actually take that acoustic and switch it, it will sound. You won't be able to hear the P and the K anymore because your brain, being an English speaker, doesn't expect it to be there.
Wait, okay, so say it again because I think you did trick me. Not the explanation, but the word pairs because I think you
So
did trick.
you take damp skunk, and in English you wouldn't have like an, we don't have an NP generally at the end of words. We don't have
Okay,
ANP.
but can you say this alternate thing, or do you need to engineer it on the computer?
If you move it on the computer, instead of hearing damp skunk, you will hear dank scump. Even though you
Okay,
didn't move the P and the K, you only moved the N's, the N and the M,
okay,
or
yeah,
vice
yeah.
versa. So your brain is synthesizing it, and it's like, no, that wasn't what we heard. That definitely wasn't what we heard. English speakers
Oh,
don't say
weird.
that.
This is like that covfefe phenomena.
Or the McGurk effect is the other one, where
McGurk.
Yeah, and that's where if you see a video of somebody saying a B but pronouncing a G, it'll your brain will hear a D.
Okay. Can you give me an example since we're on video now?
So like the video, somebody would be saying ba ba ba, but the audio would be ga ga ga, and so you
Okay.
would hear da da da, even though they were definitely you were actually hearing ga ga ga, but because you were looking at somebody saying ba ba ba, your brain
Okay.
synthesizes it. Whereas if you take the video away, sorry, I have something in my eye, then you will hear ga 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 instead.
Do you think that this is, I think that we're in a major cultural shift from the written word back to the oral word. And there's this great book by Walter Ong called Orality and Literacy that I think that everybody as possible should read it just to understand the way that we interacted with information before the written word and the way that it formed our brains, it formed our societies, it informed so much of what we thought about the world and how we communicated. And then switching to the written word underwent caused people to think differently. And now we're going from the written word back to the oral word with media now and broadcast media so cheap and prevalent that we're going back to an oral way of thinking, of dealing with knowledge. I think that that has a really big effect on the changes in our society, though I think it's just understudied and under noticed, but I think it is having an effect.
Mm.
And then going from a podcast, people who are listening to this podcast versus the people who are watching the video, I'm sure that there's a lot of different
There's
information.
podcast happening at the same time.
What?
I didn't know
Well, I
this
mean,
was broadcast as a podcast too.
not right now, but I do take all of my videos and then I put them into podcast form. Or people just listen to just the audio and they have the video shut down. But there's just a different layer of there's a lot more going on. And I can't really watch long videos. I need to be keeping busy. It's really difficult for me to just watch two people talking. But
Mhm.
there's some people out there who really like it, and I appreciate them. I appreciate you. So you have to write this book, but before you write the book, you have to get out of Dodge. And you've been working on Jazz Jennings season 8. Is there going to be is there cliffhangers in this show?
This season didn't have much of a cliffhanger. He went back to school and they made sure to say exactly where his dorm was and to show outside of the dorm window and be like, "This is the view from Jazz's dorm." And
They
then
doxed him?
basically, and then they're like, "Oh, you got a death threat, Jazz." Like that was a whole
Oh, okay.
claim, and they made a big deal out of like it was so different now because this time they know exactly where he is when they show his house in every episode. I don't understand like who's living in that house if that's not their house.
Well, maybe they needed the drama. They're like, let's get a death threat going on because we're kind of running out of ideas here, guys.
Yeah, and then at the same time he wanted to have some protest thing at the end of the show or end of the episode, and there was all this drama about like oh it's not safe for you to be outside, and to me it just seems like manufacturer trying to make him scared of life so that he stays in their control. But when they actually put it on and had all these extras from the show, it was just kind of it was a very wholesome like youth group sort of environment, and they were all wearing the trans flags as capes because apparently they're sold as capes.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it's not something they're all independently thinking of when they go to protests.
Okay. To cape up.
Yeah,
Okay. I
they're
guess it's
they're.
nice. Make a good beach towel.
I don't think it would make a good beach towel
Well, I
unless
mean,
it was
not
very different
not.
material.
Yeah, it would need to be terry cloth, of course, but I mean, just like the nice stripes, you just lay there on the beach.
And none of them are ever ironing them. So every time I've seen somebody wear a trans flag as a cape, it's always been like clearly they just got it out of the box and it's all folded.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Does that disturb you? Creases on flags?
It seriously disturbs me. Yes,
Really?
that's
Do you
all
have
I
like
can
an
focus
ironing
on.
board specifically for flags at your house whenever you're
No, I
getting
use
ready
I
to
use a
protest?
steamer.
Oh,
I,
steamer.
I
That's
don't have the
easier.
attention span to get out an ironing board. Ugh. Like seriously, that was the problem. I'm too distracted by the mice in the other field.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, wait. What? Creases Mike. Crease Mike. I'll just steam it and run.
If
Steam
it
it and
grind my
go.
gears, it creases my flag.
What is your flag? Do you have your own flag? A milk thistle flag?
Oh, the monocotomy
Family
flag,
crest?
the Church of the Monocotomy flag is a trans flag that has been bleached white
Oh,
because it represents surrender back to the idea that like we're all just ourselves.
okay. That's like erasing existence, though.
Well, it's so the idea of the monocotomy is that who you are as a person and your physical body are not separate. So you have like a dichotomy and a trichotomy, like philosophically,
Okay.
and then there's also the whole thing with where grass is a monocot botanically, and
Monocotomy.
we're turf.
You are turf. Okay, I get it. There's wordplay here, but what is a monocotomy? Like it's an economy. Like grass is
So
an
if a
economy.
dichotomy would be like the idea of mind and body being separate.
Yes.
So I would say like there a lot of people have that model that I have my mind and my body and they're independent in some way. And then you might have the trichotomy would be where you have a mind and a body and a soul.
Hmm.
And the non-binatarians are kind of like trichotomous where they have there's you, there's the mind, there's you, the body, and then there's the gender identity, which might change. And then the Our Lady Perpetual Hormone Replacement Therapy, that's more dichotomous, where it's like I've got myself, my mind, and my gender identity are the same. They're fused, but they're both separate from my body. And then so my position is like, no, you're stuck with yourself, just like the rest of us, to quote the musician Atmosphere. So who you are is not independent of your body, and so if you get a brain injury, you are different now.
Hmm. I
There's no
wrestle with that.
separation.
I know I'm well integrated into my body, but I don't know. I just feel like there's something else going on too. Integrated in my body, but there's also like, I think we trick ourselves into the mind body problem because we live so much of our lives in our head and in communication, which is kind of separated from the body. And the more technology we have interceding on behalf of us, the more we're tricked into there's me, the person, and then there's me, the body. But there is some sort of other thing going on. It's not gender, but you know, that is my in my consciousness, my feeling. I am feeling through my body. My body interrupts that. I have to take care of my body, but like I'm still in connection. It's like I'm in discourse with the world through my body. My body isn't the sum total of me. I can't get around that way of thinking that there's something distinct or different going on than just physical body gish stuff.
Is the fundamental problem of why am I me and not you?
Yeah, you're
Like you
you.
explain everything materialistically except for the fact that I'm localized here.
Say that again.
You can account for everything from a materialist framework without implanting an element of consciousness, except for the problem of I'm here, I'm where I am, I'm localized in this body. There's no reason for that. There's no
Hmm.
reason any of us needs to be conscious, and yet I feel like I am.
Hmm.
So that's what concerns me when I see people looking at like the AIs talking to each other, confusing the communication for thinking that the communication represents something when we know that they're not. They don't have bodies. Like anyway,
Hmm. Wait, follow that thought. They don't have bodies, but they are just algorithms. They do have location, but it's light.
we're never going to
Fiction.
know that they have a perspective the way that we know that we have a perspective because
Okay.
they didn't come from where we came from. So there's no we know that humans are conscious because we ourselves have that firsthand experience that's inaccessible externally. So it's only accessible to the embodied person.
Hmm. Hmm.
So anything imitating that through interaction and observation of us, it's I feel like it's an impossible leap to get to the idea that they therefore have that same localization, that same first person perspective,
Hmm.
because you can account for that without a first person perspective.
Are you worried about AI? Is this thrilling to you or is this horrific?
It's terrifying.
Why?
Yeah.
Because we're creating something that has no knowledge of us and we don't have any knowledge of?
I see a lot of people rushing to empathize with something they shouldn't be empathizing with.
Okay, yeah.
They have no basis for empathy with, and not discounting the idea that like we can persuade it to be nice to us. Like we're nice to each other because we're born to each other and we evolved to be
Hmm.
nice to each other. The idea that we can replicate that or that we can ever know the soul of a computer, in other words, it's arrogant and
Hmm.
dangerous.
Yeah, I think
I'm with
I'm
Elon on this.
more. What?
I'm totally
Elon?
with Elon on this.
Yeah, with
Elon, the
the.
savior of turf Twitter.
Yeah, well, yeah, he even came out the other day. He said something pretty compelling. He said that everybody who does this to children should be jailed for life.
That's strong, but I do
Yeah,
think that there needs to be some consequences.
we'll see. We'll see. It could just
When you
change
jail someone
overnight.
for life, you're enslaving them in America. I don't know if I'm comfortable going that far.
Really? What about just having done to them what they did to others and leave it at that?
Punitive vaginoplasty. I don't know if I'm not on board with that either.
Oh man, the whole stream was to get to punitive vaginoplasty. What a phrase. Wow.
Maybe if we could find a way to use Neuralink to give people the firsthand experience of having had done to them what they did to someone else, I would be in favor of that. If it was
Oh,
reasonably
interesting.
brief, if it happened rapidly enough, but they were still stuck with all the memories, I think that's defensible. I don't know about permanently enslaving someone. I don't know about actually harming them, but forcibly implanting empathy and the psychological understanding of what happened.
Jesus, this is really intense stuff. You think that's going to be possible, implanting memories in people? Is that where it's going to head?
Yeah, I do think it's possible. I've talked to enough people who did psychedelics that I believe that that's possible.
That you can implant a memory into somebody else?
If you can have like an intense hallucination that didn't really happen, just from a substance, like I don't see why it would be impossible to mimic that with intentionally. I don't know that we're
Wow.
there yet to where we could actually direct it,
Yeah.
but
Wow. Do you have a Neuralink
yeah,
yet? Are you on the
get
waiting
sentenced for
list?
a bad trip. That would be might violate the Eighth Amendment. I don't know. Do you think a bad trip would violate the Eighth Amendment? Like if that was
Cruel and
something a judge
unusual
sentenced you to?
punishment? Okay,
Yeah.
does the punishments fit the crime, cruel and unusual punishment?
Well, if it was everybody's punishment, it wouldn't be unusual. And if it just kind of stressed you out for an hour, but then it was over, is it really?
Hmm.
And it didn't harm you.
If it changed your behavior, then it would be a good thing. You'd probably save a lot of money on the prison bills, right? If we could just kind of manipulate criminals into not being criminal anymore. I mean, it's
I guess that would
totally,
have to be the standard. Is it less cruel than incarceration?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
if it's less cruel than incarceration, then it probably doesn't rise to the level of cruel punishment.
Or you make it
Legally.
elective. People say, okay, we're going to put you on this drug and you're going to change your personality. So you don't do this anymore. Or you can go to prison and we're just going to exile you from society for X number of days. I wonder if criminals, to what degree they'd accept the deal.
Because that's the idea of incarceration is that we are trying to like give you an experience to change your behavior in the future. Isn't that the point?
Well, that and removing them from society.
Well, but they're still in society. I think that's a problematic way of looking at prisoners.
What, that they're
They're
away
they're
from
they're
society?
removed from their ability to harm other people in society as to the same extent. I don't see them as separate. I've known some people who were in jail for reasons that I don't think they should have been in jail for, but
Hmm.
were for an extended period. One case they had a brain injury, and so they ended up in a catch-22 where they were arrested for brain injury related behavior that didn't harm anyone, and were immediately declared not competent to stand trial. So they were not able to have a bail hearing,
Oh,
and the behavior had gotten them somehow charged with a crime and gotten a bail set at $500,000, which was absurd. Like
wow.
I think he threw a propane tank or something and got charged with terrorism or something. It was
Oh
absurd.
no.
It got thrown out later. But until his brain healed, he was not able to get out of jail. So he was just in the psych ward of a prison for
Oh
months.
man. Did he get through that okay?
Yeah, yeah. Fortunately, so and then was eventually let out and had a record expunged, and on the condition that he continued to seek treatment and
Okay.
provide evidence that he was seeking treatment. But he's doing good.
Glad to hear that. I haven't been ever in prison. I don't want to be in prison.
Yeah, me neither. But
I only
yeah.
break little laws, not the ones that'll get me in prison.
What?
Like I yell at children when they're yelling at me and I'm driving. And I feel like that's breaking some sort of law of propriety that I'm
Mm.
yelling at them. They're like, Susie pinched my butt. And I say, I don't care. I'm driving. You know, I feel like I'm breaking some sort of law about being an empathetic, upstanding, upright citizen, but I don't care. You need to deal with that yourself, and I'm going to deal with the road.
Can you install something so where you just have to press the button on their seat, or if their seat goes above a certain volume, it just distributes a
Like a
noise feedback.
foam,
Like,
like there's a bunch of foam dumps on them, and they're frozen for the rest of the trip. That would be kind of cool.
sounds
Yeah.
flammable.
No. Well, no. I mean, it can be anti-flammable foam. You can get there's all types of foam nowadays, Sierra. They have flammable foam, anti-flammable foam. They have packing foam. You just get some packing tape, flood the whole bus with those packing peanuts. And then I'd have to clean up. It'd be such a bother to clean up. There's always trade-offs with these things.
There's got to be some sort of like topography that would allow them to rapidly increase in size and then to just shrink back up.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, like some sort of weird meta material.
Yeah, where you could like have a magnet or something that would just cause them to open up.
That'd be cool. That would be like restraints. What do you feel about being handcuffed? Is that cruel and unusual
It's quite a
punishment?
personal question.
I know it's a personal question.
Uh, but they had at a festival I went to. They had a adult sized ball pit. It was pretty fun. You definitely could
What
like barely move.
were the balls? Just those plastic ones, the hollow plastic ones, or were they foam?
Yeah, like at Chuck E. Cheese inside of a pool that was like one of those standalone above ground pools that was deep enough that you could be completely submerged in them.
Where was this?
With
Was
like
this one of your trippy days with the California people?
yeah, this was in California. This was at a festival. I think. Well, I don't want to say the name, but it was a smaller festival, and where people would bring like immersive art stuff that you could climb into,
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
and yeah, that was also had a lazy river, and yeah, that was one of the things they have a few other things that are just kind of like you can be an adult but like rediscover play with like adult sized playthings, and that was one of them. They also had a structure you could climb on that was like a playground structure.
Do you get to dress up in like foam suits and then do battles
Oh yeah,
with each
costumes are
other?
mandatory, and you have to bring many costume changes. It's one of those
Oh,
festivals.
costumes. Okay. I just want to like, do you get to like wrestle around, but you're like wearing like some sort of puffed up, kind of rubberized suit that you don't get hurt but you can still do extreme acts
Oh,
of
one of those things.
daring.
Oh, we didn't have things like that. It was more like sequins and glitter and mirrors and colorful beads.
Are those glitter people still around, or did they go? Did they go away? Did they get
Glitter
serious?
people?
Yeah, all the fun people that you're talking about and all of your fun adventures. It seems like where did they go now? Are they still
COVID.
around? Oh, COVID took them all
COVID
out.
happened.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
but no, they're coming back from what I've heard this year.
Yeah, uh, the world needs to go back to being alive.
Yeah, fun party people
So I'm opening
who
up
like.
chat. Chat, do you have any questions for Sierra here, for Exulansic here? Go ahead and ask. I'm reading the chat right now. There's your Maine Coon. You're not allergic to your Maine Coon?
Nope. I was worried I was, but Tess said I'm not. So I was allergic to an apartment I had.
Does Exulansic have a Substack?
Yes, it's exulansic.substack.com.
It's and what's on your Substack?
There's essays that are only on my Substack, as well as videos go up there early behind a paywall, and then eventually they become free. So they're just paywall temporarily. Stuff also goes up onto my Odyssey early.
Okay.
It seems like Rumble is also going to start having subscriptions that can facilitate that early members content. So it'll probably
Do you
be
have
super
good
redundant.
amount of views on Rumble? I get pathetically low amount. I get very little traction on that website.
Not really, unless I've been recently banned on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Then
but
you get your band boost.
yeah, it's not like awful, but it's definitely. And I do have some people that only watch me there, or only watch me on Odyssey.
Hmm.
But I try to be spread out just because I get targeted for mass
Yeah.
reporting.
You do. You
So
get targeted. But the question is cake or pie? Cake or pie?
I'm more of a pie person.
She's a pie person. Like some sort of like meringue pie or like chunky fruit pie.
Meringue pie is basically a cake.
Is
I
it?
don't,
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. It's a gelatinous cake.
no,
Yeah. Yeah.
I want there to be crust on top and crust on the bottom,
Okay.
and then something good inside.
Favorite filling? Cinnamon toast
Peach,
crunch.
peach or rhubarb, actually.
Ooh, peach and rhubarb or just peach or rhubarb?
I've never tried peach and rhubarb. I've had strawberry rhubarb, which was delicious too.
Do you make
But I had
pies?
I had a peach tree growing up, so yeah,
Oh, okay.
I've made a lot of pies.
People are really agreeing with your pie choice. Helena's
Well,
going
good. I'm
crazy.
glad I finally said something non-controversial.
Yeah, finally. Uh, any tips or tricks for raising a Maine Coon?
So they're cats are definitely trainable. I don't know if we'll actually do it. Rupert, will you shake? Or is it too weird having up shake? Good job.
Oh,
Yeah, he's a good cat. I would suggest clicker training because it's definitely worth it. You
what's
get them
clicker
to.
training?
So the idea of clicker training is that it's you start by classically conditioning them to associate the clicker noise with getting a treat, and then you operant condition them by giving them the clicker and then a treat when they do the behavior that you want. And so then they're choosing to do a behavior. Here, go down. You're distracting
Like
me.
what kind of behavior? Like
So I just showed shake, which he'll do. I promise I wasn't just moving it. I've got videos of him doing it from sitting, and he'll reach up and like high five me. He understands that like if I present my hand, that means I want him to touch it, and then he'll get something.
okay.
And from that, I also learned that if he taps me or otherwise does this, that's a faster way to get a piece of my food than to just go for it. So I've taught him inhibition and communication by using clicker training. So he's very socially aware, and has more adaptive behaviors to get what he wants, which is usually whatever I'm eating, or to open the door or something. Like he'll get my attention if I'm not looking at him, and then he'll do this if he wants me to open the door to go out.
Oh,
He also will sit and lie down and stand up with different hand signs. But all of this was taught by teaching him the clicker thing. And the idea of the clicker is that it's an immediate reinforcer for behavior that you want to see, and rather than the time it takes to get out the treat and hand it to him, he might think that he's getting rewarded for going at the food, and that's not the behavior you want. The behavior you want is whatever it was that you clicked to reward. My other cat is disabled and has a brain injury, and I've never gotten her to be able to be effectively trained.
cat tard. Did you see that TikTok video, that girl who was trying to teach her family to use her different pronouns, and she was using a clicker
I
to
made a
do it?
response to that. Yeah,
But
the video of
she
Rupert doing
never
this,
accompanied it. She didn't accompany it with a treat. That was the problem. She
no,
didn't give her. That was the problem. She should have give her
these days they
family
get as a
treats.
punishment.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. So you did a video response to that?
Yeah, I did a reaction to that video, and in that reaction video is the video of Rupert doing tricks.
Do your cat videos get more views than any other videos that you do?
I should probably do more cat videos, but no, the videos that get the most views have been the I Am Jazz videos, I Am Jazz reactions, as well
Any
as
copyright strikes on that?
I've never gotten a copyright strike from those. I did have one person attempt to do that for I think it was Finn the Finvincible did a copyright claim on me for a reaction
Uh,
video, and I counterclaimed, and it went
oh,
away.
yeah. Fair use.
And after that, they didn't do copyright strikes. But it's fair use reaction video, so no, they've never given me a copyright strike. I just get banned for not staying banned, which
You
is
just
very
won't
low
go
incentive.
away.
Just yeah, it
You're
was
like
like
milk
what's my
thistle.
incentive to stay banned? It'd be one
Okay,
thing if it was a
case.
temporary ban that was like long. That would be
Yeah.
one reason to stay banned. But if there's no motivation to stay banned, why would I try to stay banned?
Yeah. YouTube, I have one warning on YouTube and it's never going to go away. I wish they would just like give me a warning a year or something like that. But now I have like this, I'm on the 3 strikes, you're out rule. If anything happens, and they won't tell me what's wrong, and they won't explain their purposes, so it's just any given thing that they don't like. It seems to be around election times when they start cracking down on things because they want to get the election result that they want to get, so they start to target political content and scare us political creators. But Casey Miller really, really, really wants to know your favorite brand of chocolate. Wrong answers only.
Hershey's.
Hershey's. Yeah, that was my go-to too. Not Mars, but Hershey's. Yeah. Casey will be joining me and Sasha Ayad later on this week. Really looking forward
No.
to Casey. Casey's an excellent, excellent person. Very, very communicative.
Yeah. Yeah. Casey's
Apparently.
great.
And is there any? Okay. No. Any more
Blaming on
questions,
the cat
guys?
thing.
Do you want to sing again to the camera?
You want to sing?
Do you? Oh, yeah. Because you
I
have a
mean,
good voice
I
and
so rarely.
when you
I don't know
sang
what.
last time, all the women like came and they forgive me for all the bad things that I said to you. And they're like, her voice is so wonderful. Thanks for letting her sing. So it was one way that I smoothed
Wait,
the,
was that
the
the last time I was on?
tide. No, it was a couple times ago. Oh, wait.
Yeah, that was before the things that happened.
I don't think so. I don't know. It's all blur. YouTube drama, even when I'm involved, like I completely forget about it. It's probably like brain shrinkage from all of the Plan B stuff that my ex-girlfriend fed me to keep her from getting pregnant.
Have you been following the King Critical drama
King Critical. What's this?
or Yogurt Gate?
Oh no, did he have sexual relations with a yogurt machine or something?
He was accused of sexually harassing somebody by eating yogurt on a call.
Wait, what?
So
How do you
he
eat? How do you eat yogurt in such a way that it causes harassment? Like slurping?
I mean
Was he using a mimosa
we could
flute?
find out. We could
Do you have some yogurt? You want to try to harass
do you
me
have some-
online? Try. Go get your Yo Play and harass me. I want to feel
Oh, it's
harassed.
Chobani. It's Chobani. I don't want to
Okay,
get
true
my
guy,
head
do it.
stuck. I'm not a raccoon.
Wait, was it like a plastic spoon? Is that when the spoon was clear and you get to see his tongue like doing little tonguing cunning linguist kind of things going on? Like how do you do this?
Well, so the actual video has been yeeted into the void, so we don't know.
Oh wait, okay. But can you replicate it? Can you just honestly, sincerely try to harass me with your Chibite?
Chobani.
Maybe he was using his finger. Maybe that's what was going on.
Well, apparently he licks it out. So like
Of the bowl?
because he doesn't want to he wants to be able to just throw it out and like he posted a whole long explanation of this.
Oh, okay. Somebody's saying that it was just licking a yogurt lid.
So first of all, so to replicate it, I need to warn you that this might look sexual, but it's not.
Okay, this is
So
not a
apparently he
sexual
warned her
string.
in advance. He warned her in
Wait.
advance, which is already like
He can't-
it's
why-
hard for me
why-
to believe that it wasn't sexual when you warned her.
Yeah, if you're gonna warn her, then obviously.
This is not intended sexually.
Okay.
I can't even do it.
Well, dear, just get your dental dam and then do it.
Yeah. So, but apparently he licked the container dry so that it would not he wouldn't need to wash it out. And you need to understand that these calories are healthier. They're healthier
The
than
ones that you lick.
carbohydrates. That's why it has to be yogurt. Has to be 10 p.m. because I'm gonna otherwise I'm gonna be hungry in the middle of the night. This is all part of the explanation he gave. There's a really detailed explanation for why he eats yogurt and why he needed to lick it dry
Okay, but
on this call.
so was it like it was a Zoom call? It was a video call?
I guess it was a stream too. There might have been other people watching.
Okay, and then so he's been me too'd or yogurtude, me girded. He's been me girded. But why? Who's this woman? What is she trying to get from him? Like his cancellation
So
or
I've been
punishment?
called. I've been referring to them as having a situationship because I guess he's engaged, but like they also had a whole thing that involved a lot of messages. That apparently they originally bonded over jealousy of Isaac Uncooked and myself and our respective success, which is
Who's
kind
this?
of like
Who are these people then? King Cutter,
there are a couple of
King
YouTubers.
King Cutlet. But they're smaller
Yeah.
channels than you were at your height before the band's hammer.
Yes, smaller, older channels.
Oh, okay, older channels too. And what do they cover? Similar stuff? Turfdom, transdom?
I don't know what Lisa's channel covers. I haven't looked into that one. I know King Critical does like a lot of the same stuff that we do.
Okay. King Critical. Okay.
Gender
I'll look
stuff.
him up. Is he funny? Do you have fun with him?
I mean, with versus at, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the whole situation is funny.
Would you watch him eat
Yogurt
lick
Gate is
yogurt?
funny.
Would you watch him eat yogurt?
At this point, I would I want to have closure on this situation.
Oh,
wanna know
okay. So
why.
it's just dangling there. Now, eating yogurt just means too much now. It's just, it's such a significant act. All of a sudden. Okay.
There's fruit on the bottom.
Have you been in contact with Isaac Uncooked at all? This is not to gossip about the guy. I think he got mad at me for a DM where I said that he was having a moment, and I said that I can't help him, and then he got a hold of that DM. So, have you been in contact with him? Is he still producing stuff?
I saw he was still uploading stuff. I am not in contact with him. Have been in the past, but not lately. I did send him the DMs that Lisa leaked to that mentioned us because I thought that was hysterical.
Lisa leaked. Is that
Lisa's the situationship with the Yotaku.
Yotaku?
Do you know what an otaku is?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I've been calling him a Yotaku because he's a
because
huge
of the
fan of yogurt.
yogurt. Okay, okay. And then this Lisa, does Lisa have a fancy name like King Critical? Is she Lisa Schmisa or something like that?
No, I think it's Lisa Michelle,
Okay.
so it's not a.
I'm Benjamin Boyce, but Lisa Michelle just seems a little difficult to get stuck in the head. Maybe it's a branding issue. She wants to get bigger.
Well, she's bigger than King Critical, but she's also I think been had a channel since 2014.
Oh, wow. What did X make of Brighton in the UK? Did she enjoy her trip?
I had a great time in Brighton, especially seeing. I think I was a few feet away from what's her name. I can't remember her name, but the woman that screamed at the fascist baby.
Oh, yeah. Fascist baby woman. Did she get fired? She kind of got railed, right?
I thought she got asked to no longer work for the MP, but I could be wrong about that. I don't want to repeat that without double checking. I do know that there was a social media reaction to that because it was so absurd. She was just and the people like it was just some guy and his baby. He wasn't even part of it. He like walked over to see why there were all these like people yelling at each other and smoke bombs. Which maybe don't do that when you're holding your baby. But maybe he saw that there was enough police around.
And then he got yelled at, and his baby was
Yeah.
called a fascist.
um, and but otherwise, and then I was really taken aback by the reasonableness of the portion sizes in Brighton. Like I'm
The
I'm used to food for that price coming at like not even for the price. Like I feel like the food was more affordable too, but it was just like it was like human sized food, and it was really good.
Okay, what do you mean
And
human
there was
sized?
like I could finish a meal and be comfortable.
Okay, not bloated, not underfed, but just right. This
Right.
is like a
Yeah,
Goldilocks portion.
Goldilocks. Yeah. And they
What
also
kind of
had a
food do they
place
eat?
they saw. I ordered Indian. 'Cause people kept telling me to get a curry, and but
Gotta get the
I
curry.
almost went into a place that was called California Burrito. But when I went in and looked at the menu, I saw that it was literally just a Chipotle, like same branding and
Oh,
options and art on the menu. So
California burrito.
it was, yeah, I spent about 3 days down there, and then went up to London and got to stay with the family, and that was really through one of the I think one of the women's organizations I was in touch with connected me, and that was really fun. Also, and then I went back to WDI was right after that.
WDI. What's that?
Women's Declaration International.
Okay.
They had a conference in DC.
Did they declare themselves? Did they make any declarations at this women's
Well, they have
independence?
a declaration that's like a
Is it in
declaration
all
of
caps? Because I don't think it counts if it's not in all caps, or like, it has to be calligraphy or all caps,
folded.
right? Yeah, it's a declaration after all.
Rupert
What is
wants to
their
be neutered.
declaration?
I should probably know this. I know it's just kind of like a mission statement for like what they think the importance of women's rights and the women's movement.
Mhm.
So if you Google Women's Declaration International, it'll come up.
Did you read UN is trying to decriminalize pedophilia now? As long
Who
as
is?
there's consent. The UN, the United Nations, it's this like governing body that I don't know if they
Hmm.
have any power over anything, but they're stupid. They're trying to decriminalize
Rupert sniffing at the
age.
yogurt. You stop sexually harassing people.
Oh, I want to see
Bad
the
cat.
kitty. Yeah, yeah. Let's do the kitty yogurt. Are cats allowed to have yogurt? Not going to go for it.
No, he's not a fan.
No.
Good, Rupert. You made a good choice. He just took the sexual harassment training for his work.
Good. I mean,
Yeah,
a
he made a
Maine
good
Coon is
choice.
a little, yeah, you
He's
don't
still a
want
little
to get,
impulsive. It's the clicker training. That's what allowed him to behave
okay.
appropriately on this call.
He doesn't swat your butt. He knows that that's inappropriate.
No, and I had posted a pic to Twitter this morning where Lulu woke me up, and I like wake up and I look over and she's just got her tongue halfway out. She's like,
Is she dead or just cat tarded?
no, that's just her default face because she had a head injury.
Oh,
So
poor
her
kid.
jaw doesn't work very well,
No.
and her paws don't work very well in terms of scratching. So she can't climb or scratch or bite, but she
Okay.
can growl, and so she
Oh.
just maxes out on growling. So I call her JK Growling because her growling is just kidding.
Do you know how cats purr, or is that still a mystery?
I know that cats can either purr or roar, so I do know that there's some physics there. So like big cats, they can either purr or roar. So I think cheetahs purr um, because they can't roar, whereas lions can't purr.
Really? Not even the female
Yeah,
lions?
not even the female lions.
How do they express that they need a cuddle?
I think they just go up and hit the guy,
Oh, okay.
or they headbutt.
So a roar is a very specific sound with specific physics involved.
Yeah, there's some anatomical difference that I'm probably going to Google after this, but I do know that
Okay.
that's a distinction between groups of cats. So cats can be grouped based on whether they can purr or roar.
Oh, really? Okay. But what about the sound like wow, wow? That's not a roar, right? Like I can't
No,
really do
no,
it.
roar is the
I can't do it. I can't get the high notes. You know what I'm trying to
you're harassing me right now. This is worse
am
than
I?
yogurt.
I'm cat rassing
This
you.
is purr gate.
We should have some drama. We should have some drama. So that's not like my cats can't roar, but they can make like they can meow and growl and go.
Yeah, and then Maine Coons have a triple purr. So when Rupert purrs, it's like three purr patterns in one. Like you can
Really?
hear multiple rhythms. It's like a heartbeat almost. So it's like he's got like, and then he's got like, like it's hard to imitate.
Do we know how they do that? Like, there's got to be all these different structures in us.
I remember reading about it once, but I don't think I could reiterate it.
I read on the internet, and this is stupid, but it just stuck in my head because it's an internet fact. So I think it's probably not true. But cats like they purr at the frequency of healing. Like there's this tone that heals flesh or something like that, a reparative tone. And so they're good to have on you, especially if you're like recovering from something, because their purrs can excite your flesh to regain health.
It sounds like placebo.
It's an internet fact, like swallowing spiders. That was an internet fact. It was never true. So, you have anything else coming up this week? What's next on the roster for people to look forward to?
I have the finale for I Am Jazz that's still behind a paywall that I was gonna try to put up tonight or tomorrow maybe so that the people in the UK can see it. I just want to watch it again before I put it on the
Hmm.
tubes and see if I need to edit anything out so that I don't get a strike. Um, and then otherwise, I had a video that I tried to put up where it was a roundup of the violence, but then they thought I was bullying Eliana Roboshkin,
Hmm.
so it got removed. But they didn't give me a strike for it. That was nice of them,
Okay.
even though I
Huh.
already had a warning.
Who's
He's
Ileana?
he's the one who dumped tomato sauce on Kelly J. Keane in Auckland,
Oh yeah. Okay.
and so they considered it bullying. My opinions of him.
What were your opinions of him?
Um,
That he's a rascal,
well,
a
I find it.
dirty
I just find it
rascal.
extremely unlikely that he has three separate, extremely rare intersex disorders. For one, I'm very skeptical of that since it wasn't mentioned years ago
Hmm.
in articles about his plight of being a trans woman.
Oh, okay.
Um, I also think it's kind of gross that he peed on his uh, Twitter space without muting the mic after announcing to everyone that he was about to do that. I
Um,
muted the mic during that part, but the surrounding horror of the participants, yeah, basically.
well, I mean, is it any less harassing than licking yogurt? I mean, peeing. He's not like peeing in the camera. It's just the sound of splashes. It's not like somebody like sticking their tongue out and running circles around a plastic lid. And if we're gonna say like, what's more? Oh, there we go. She's bringing it out. That's a nice spoon, though.
Right? Let's go.
I will have. I'm speaking with KJK tomorrow. Yeah, I just have to look away. I have to ignore that.
I see you're blushing.
I am blushing. I should turn down the saturation. I should go into sepia tone so you can't tell. Here, let's go sepia tone. So my sadness is masked, or my blushing, my blush is masked.
When you come to California, maybe we can get froyo. There you go.
We can do froyo in California. Is that was California where froyo comes from? It sounds like a very California thing. If you ate froyo in Britain, it would probably be called California yogurt.
I have no idea where froyo came from.
It could be. It's either Jersey or California. I'm certain.
No, it was like in the sepia tone. It reminded me of cuttlefish.
Cuttlefish?
Well, squid
Like,
definitely makes sepia. I don't. I think cuttlefish also can squirt it.
oh, sepia is actually an ink from a bladder of an octopus, and that's how. And it was like exposed. And I just wonder why it's used for a sort of film grain.
I don't
Maybe
know.
because they use
Maybe
that.
maybe.
Okay. I thought you were calling me a cuttlefish because I'm like a male feminist or something. Because aren't they cuttlefish? They pretend to be females.
No, yeah, cuttlefish are people that pretend to be something else, but that I use it for men especially who pretend to be women or pretend to be female in order specifically in order to get close to females for negative reasons. So it's narrowly defined
Okay.
as can be seen in many other species. It's not meant as a generalization about all people doing that.
Are you allowed to eat cuttlefish or male feminists?
It depends on the state.
Okay.
I think
And how
Missouri allows
cuddly
it.
are Arizona does?
Missouri.
Oh, Missouri. I'm not going to Missouri just for that. Male feminist on the menu. How cuddly is a cuttlefish?
I mean, I had a high school exit exam, and the prompt was what would be your ideal pet, and I chose cuttlefish for the reason that they are cuddly.
Are they though, or just their plushy versions?
Well, if they're still alive, then they're squishy around the bone, the cuddle bone.
Oh,
But even
they have
even
a
if it's just the cuddle bone, you could cuddle with it as long as you sanded it down. I think.
wait. They have a cuddle bone inside of them.
Yeah,
Is that what makes them act like male feminists?
is the boner probably.
Yeah, it's probably the cuddle bone.
We've
What does the
solved it
cuddle bone
finally.
do? Is that like a part of their like? Do they wrestle with it, or like it's
Well,
a
they're
tool?
mollusks, so it's like a shell, but it's an internal one,
Okay.
which is kind of strange. But it just kind of like gives them shape.
I don't know what a cuttlefish is. They're mollusks.
They're
They're not
yeah,
even fish.
they're related to squid.
Okay, my ignorance has been explained. I always thought I knew what a male feminist was, but now I'm gonna have to look it up on the internet. And is it cuttle or cuddle?
I think it's two T's, cuttlefish.
Okay, we'll look it up.
But there's a BBC documentary that came out last year that showed like a smaller male cuttlefish that was pretending to be a female to get underneath the larger cuttlefish. That was male cuttlefish that was guarding the bunch of female cuttlefish for the purposes of reproducing with them.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Why else
they
would
can
you
change
keep
their
a
skin
bunch of
color,
cuttlefish?
and so it was like changed its skin coloration to look like a female, and like it pulled up its little tentacles.
The lengths we go to get laid.
I mean, that's why maleness evolved.
Helena Blavatsky thinks that they're the bunnies of the sea.
They kind of look like bunnies. Although there's also sea hares, which are these basketball shaped like velvet purple like vulvas animals that like you can put your hand inside of.
What do you find?
Where do you find them?
What do you
Oh, what do you
find
find?
inside of them? Yeah. Like,
I never thought that far ahead when I was at summer camp, and in retrospect, I should have.
yeah, you
But
should
you
have
just
thought,
find
like,
more.
what?
You just find more velvetiness.
Oh, really?
I think
Just
that was
a
my
sea
my
of.
great awakening.
You could probably just
Um,
crawl inside of one and relax.
they weren't big enough, sadly.
Oh.
If I had been smaller,
Did you like treat them like Thanksgiving olives and you had one on each finger?
they weren't that small. No,
Okay,
like you could
one
put your
on
whole
each hand,
hand.
like pom poms. Okay.
It was
Did you
like
walk
basketball
around like?
sized. At least
Okay.
when I was 8, they were basketball sized.
Okay. Wow. Okay. What are they called? Sea hares?
Sea hares, yeah, and they
That's a
feel like
dumb
velvet.
name.
Is it better than sea cucumber?
Well, sea cucumber, yeah. That sounds. But sea hare, like, what is that even? Sea hare?
Because they
You
look
could.
like little rabbits, except they don't have ears or
Oh,
tails.
H A
Like
R E.
and then
Okay.
you touch them and they feel like bunnies
What
because
do
they're all
they give
soft.
you gifts of like numbness or just pure softness? Do they poison you? Do they
No,
digest
I don't
you?
think so because if they just kind of like are. I think they're invertebrates and they don't really do much of anything
Mm,
except
yeah.
exist to make the world better.
They don't even have a
They're kind
cuddle
of like
bone. They're kind of like what?
real bunnies. Like they're no threat.
Bunnies have
They're just
uses. Yeah.
yeah, making the world better for you.
Well, and your eagle syndrome, if it's small enough, you just like it activates your eagle syndrome.
Yeah, I have the aquatic version of Eagle syndrome.
What's that mean?
Like if a penguin and an eagle had a kid, so I can dive into the water to catch the sea hares.
Okay. What's your natural predator? Like a sea lion? Or
Oh, I'm an apex predator. I don't have a natural predator.
really?
Yep.
Other than YouTube's copyright strike ban people?
Oh yeah, I did do a video of me and community guidelines. And it was like I think it was a polar bear chasing a seal, but then like a whale jumped up on the ice and like ate the polar bear or something wild and unexpected.
Wait, what?
Oh,
What? Why did
do you
you?
have any yogurt to offer?
No, I don't have any food. It's Ramadan. All I have is crazy glue and Dungeons and Dragons dice. Well, let's wrap up the stream. Thanks
All
for
right.
joining me. And this guy's name is Bodie. And he's not cat-hearted. He's just really demanding when he wants pets.
I can get my other cat.
And here, have a growl off.
Yeah, let me grab him.
What planet are these people from? Asks Candy Apples.
Dear.
I heard one little thing. I heard a bit. Oh. Did he get scratched? Oh no. Did you get hurt?
No, no. She's just kidding.
Okay.
She's J.K. Rowling. She lacks the capacity to harm.
Good.
I was just confused because I disturbed her slumber.
Poor guy.
And she did her only known defense. She's like the Magikarp of cats.
What?
Like Magikarp can only use Splash. That's its only attack.
Is this like a Pokemon reference?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know my Pokemon. I'm too old for that stuff. I missed out on the Pokemon.
I'm surprised it didn't come up in our stream since I had a Magikarp painting over my bed for a while.
He just drooled all over my desk. Dude.
Woo drools too. Oh, she's
He's
so
been
confused.
picking up.
She's like, I wasn't over there, and now I was growling on camera suddenly. Come here.
All right, bro. I'll feed you. I'll feed you
He's
in a minute.
whistle activated. That's like the one trick that she knows. So she's coming back.
Oh, last question. What planet are these folks from?
Which folks? The cats?
Somebody wants to know what planet are these people from? Doesn't specify who the people are, but it's a question and it needs to be answered. What planet are these people
Okay.
from?
I mean, I would go with Earth. That seems to be
Okay,
a safe bet.
I'll answer. Earth.
Although I have a theory that we're actually like we started on Venus and then we just had to move to Earth because we screwed up Venus.
Okay, maybe Venus before.
I don't know if you follow any of the TikToks with the mud flood theory.
I looked on TikTok. Every time I look on TikTok, I'm told my spiritual, my non-corporal form says, "Go away. This is not for you. Leave. Back away." And so I back away and I don't watch it. But I do see little tiny videos from TikTok that other people call. But I don't think it's good for my brain to engage with that platform. I think it'll just scramble me. That would be nice if I did the work to clip out little video segments and see if I can get any traction over there. Anyway, so let's wave away from the one more purr.
Okay.
No more purr.
Saying goodbye.
One more. Okay, bye. See you guys.